Your favorite toy truck nerds are back. Welcome to That Scale RC Show.
Hey guys, what's up and welcome back to this week's episode of That Scale RC Show. We are on episode 98. I'm your host Adam along with Jay and Travis, and we actually have a special guest this week. So this week we have Spencer, aka Sack the Ripper on Instagram, and we've been trying to get him on the show for a couple weeks now. We know Travis was gone the previous week, so here we are. How's it going, Spencer?
Pretty good. How you doing?
Can't complain.
Nice.
So Spencer's listened to the podcast for a while now. He kind of knows what's going on, so I think we're gonna kind of, just jump into it, kind of get a little questionnaire going, and then from there we'll just whatever you want to talk about.
Okay.
All right. So, question number 1. What was your first scale crawler?
That would be the SEX 10.2 Trail Honcho. And
Nice.
I couldn't tell you how excited I was to get that thing, because originally, years earlier, I had seen the OG SEX 10 at the local hobby town and thought it was just the coolest thing I'd ever seen. It was the first scale crawler I ever saw. And saw the price tag was at the time a lot to me. I think it was like $430-ish, and when I got to talking to the guy at the register about it, he then filled me in that it doesn't come with a battery, doesn't come with a charger, all that stuff. I'm like used to back in the Radio Shack days where you just like put double A's in something and hit the trail, but that was not the case with that, so it steered me away, like having to spend probably over $500 on it, and years later eventually ended up with the 10.2, which is a pretty sweet rig.
Nice. Yeah, I mean that's I know that's a sticker shock for a lot of people because they don't realize this is a it's a hobby, it's like hobby grade, not necessarily toy grade like the Radio Shack. So yeah, I could definitely see that. What would be your favorite scale crawler?
Ooh, that is a tough question. Like of my collection or
Collection, out whatever's out there, you're free to answer this however you want.
Well, I mean, I like a lot of the ones that are out on the market, but probably be easier for me to pick one from my collection. And that would probably be that Milwaukee truck. That is actually what my trail honcho ended up turning into.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that's my first rig. It's not so much trail honcho anymore, besides the frame rails, and I guess, no, not even the center skid, because I ended up putting a 2-speed trans in that. So yeah, frame rails, and the side wings. That's pretty much it that's left from the trail honcho.
Nice. That's a good looking. Yeah, I was gonna say that's a good looking truck. We'll get into that in a little bit.
Okay.
So, favorite place to go crawling?
Ooh. So that would probably have to be. There's this place called Crowder Mountain. It's about an hour and a half from me, and it's like this, not a very steep mountain, but it's covered in these giant rock formations of all different sizes, and it's just like comp line galore. you just can't run out of things to crawl on there, and stuff that like really pushes the limits of your rigs. And I'd say that that's probably my favorite.
Nice. And then if I don't know if you've actually been to like big major events. If not, we can skip this one. But do you have a favorite event?
Well, there's one that I've been to a few times now. Where is it? It's in Tennessee, kind of near Sevierville. It's RRW Crawl Zones course, and it seems like a couple times a year that they host these events there. It's kind of like there's gates and man-made obstacles and natural rock and stuff there. It's a cool place, and I've been to it twice now, I want to say, and unfortunately both times it's been like downpouring rain, so it's like really muddy. All the man-made stuff, like made out of wood, is really slick, but it's a really cool place, and they have spent a tremendous amount of time setting up this course, and I would gladly go back there anytime. But one that I'd like to go to, bucket list wise, would be Proline by the Fire.
Yeah, and amazingly, all three of us have not been to Proline by the Fire yet.
Oh, for real? I find that hard to believe.
It's funny when when we hear that one a lot, like, oh, our favorite is Proline by the Fire, and we're like, yeah, not one of us has been there yet, so maybe this year.
Yeah, it looks incredible.
Now, for people that don't know, RRW, that's a shop, correct? Like a hobby store?
Sorry,
positive.
What'd you say?
I said for the people that don't know, RRW, that's a hobby shop, isn't it?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, see, I was gonna say I thought so.
Oops, sorry, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Oh, I was just gonna say it really is in the middle of nowhere. You're like going through these curvy parkway mountain passes into what seems to be like a really rural area, and you just like, you're losing cell service and you think you're getting lost, and then like out of nowhere this place pops up.
Wow.
It's kind of a strange experience finding it the first time, but yeah, they've got this awesome little shop there, and what's cool about it is they have like unusual products in there, in terms of like not stuff that I find at like Hobbytown, for example. A lot of interesting things, but yeah, the course there is just awesome.
Nice. So next question is current number of rigs you own.
Okay, so I've got 3 crawlers, a short course truck, a SMT-10, and to me a TTO-2, or maybe it's a TTO-1. It's the Escort, whatever one Jay built.
Oh, okay. Yeah, the 2.
Nice.
So 6.
Nice little collection. And then last, but no, there's 2 more. Sorry. So if you were to walk into the hobby shop right now, what would be the next scale purchase you would make?
Ooh, like a rig or just parts?
Rig. It could be rig, parts. That's why we've kind of changed this to be however you want to answer it.
Well, if it was probably a body. I'm not sure which one though. I really enjoy painting, so I get bored very quickly with my rigs, so putting a new body on not only gives me more painting experience, but gives it a fresh look and makes me excited about the rig again. So yeah, I'd say probably a body. And if I had to pick a rig to buy right now, I hate to say it, and all my friends are probably going to pick on me for it, but the VS410 Phoenix. And the reason why people would pick on me is because I am a die-hard standard straight axle purist. I am not a fan of portals. at all. And, that truck has portals on it. But if I were to own a portal rig, it would have to be a Vanquish. And they just did such an amazing job with that transmission. And you know me, I'm a Toyota guy, so that Land Cruiser-esque body is, tickling my fancy.
That's one of the coolest bodies I've seen in a long time. Like, I think it looks better than the MST body.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I like that MST body. Not crazy about the bed cage thing on that. I prefer the Vanquish one.
Yeah, that's one thing that's
Understandable.
nice about Vanquish is they do go a little like above and beyond, and they try to like when they put something together, they want to kind of stand out from the crowd because they've had this reputation that you're spending a lot of money, so they want to have something that's a little more tasteful, looks a little more, fancy, high end. So like even their bodies, I believe they were one of like the first to actually do laser cut bodies, so they're already all pre-cut out, ready to go, and that's part of why they look really good.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Mm-hmm. Because I believe the first one, when they came out with the VS10, the first one, which were kind of those scout looking ones, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, the Origin.
Yeah, that one, that body was, that was their biggest hype. It was laser cut, so it was all pre-cut out, ready to go for you, and it was super crisp and everything. And that's what made that body look really clean is the fact that you could tell that it was cut really well. Last but not least, your favorite hobby shop.
That would have to be hands down Anderson RC. It's in Thomasville, North Carolina. It's a bit of a trek for me. It's pushing on 3 hours away, but it's like Toys R Us for grown men. It's like the inventory is insane there. It's just stacked floor to ceiling with so many different RCs and walls of parts categorized by brand or type of RC. And it just, your jaws to the floor and your eyes are wide open as you're walking through that place. And like the most impressive Lexan body selection I've ever seen. It's probably, shoulder high and 40 feet long of bodies stacked on bodies, stacked on bodies. It's pretty insane. I never leave that store empty-handed.
Nice. It's hard to find those stores that actually stock up on stuff like that because especially with bodies now, and especially with how many manufacturers are out there, it's really hard to keep all that in stock because it's a lot of overhead. But it's nice to find those hobby shops that actually do, because then you actually have the opportunity to kind of hunt for something, and it might be something that you've never seen until then, and you're like, oh, I didn't even know this existed, and it might persuade you to go with something different than what you originally had anticipated.
Yeah, exactly. They had a really unusual body there one time that I still to this day, it was like probably a year and a half ago that I saw it there, that I've been kicking myself for not having just bought. And the wheelbase was unusual, and that's why I didn't buy it at the time. But I've always wanted to do a replica body of the Jeep J10 from the Twister movie.
Okay.
And I want to say the brand was like Parma or something like that. It wasn't like a real mainstream brand, and it was a legitimate old Jeep J10 body, and I think it had maybe like an 11 or 12-ish wheelbase or something. It was odd, and at the time I wasn't super familiar with how to adjust wheelbases on rigs, and I should have just bought it. It wasn't very expensive. It was probably like $30, and by the time I'd convinced myself that I wanted it, and I went back there, it wasn't there anymore.
Oh no.
Yeah, that's a shame. It's funny you bring up Parma because that's actually a good question. I don't even know if Parma still is pumping out new bodies or if it's pretty much whatever you can find from them.
I don't know. I've looked at their website before, and it's a bit archaic.
It is. You can tell it's like probably an older dude that's been in a hobby for a long time that's like set in his ways because
Yeah.
they haven't changed. I mean, he's had some cool stuff. Like when I very first got into crawling and stuff, he had a Nissan Titan body, which was kind of cool. And I mean, he's had like some neat looking stuff.
Yeah, they've had some stuff that's like you don't really. It wasn't like the normal pick of the mill when you went with a Parma body. Like that's actually the body that I have for my tow truck. The rusty tow truck is a Parma 57 Chevy.
Oh wow.
Yeah. So I cut the bed off, used just the cab. So that's actually funny because I don't even know if I could find that body again.
Don't they make that two-door Blazer, that like 90s model Blazer? Or no, it was a two-door
Yes.
Tahoe.
Yep. Two-door Tahoe / Blazer. I mean, you're talking to somebody who's a big Chevy enthusiast. Yes. When it first switched over from to that body style, it was called a Blazer in 93. Then in 94, they adopted the name Tahoe. And it was still a two-door Tahoe up until, I want to say, like 98, 99. Then they discontinued the two-door model. But yeah, they do have that, and I actually own two of those.
Two of those bodies?
You have two of those bodies. They're just chilling.
There
Well,
was
one's on
unpainted?
both unpainted.
Wow.
So, yeah. So the one is kind of cut up because I put it on my Gravedigger chassis because I was going to turn it into a mud truck. Never finished doing it. So it's still sitting there mounted, just clear. Then I got another one that should still be in the bag. Yeah, because I bought two of them because I really wanted to get one. The only problem I ever had with that body, and that's why one went to being that mud truck because it didn't really matter. It was just to put a body over the chassis, is that wheelbase was super short. So it's like if you wanted to make it somewhat believable to that wheelbase, you had to really shrink it. I think it was less than a 11 3/4 wheelbase, which used to be the smallest.
Yeah, that is a really short wheelbase. It looks kind of short in the pictures.
It's very short. So that was my one problem because I was kind of like, okay, do I just like make it like a little unbelievable and stretch it? So it was one of those. I just never really knew what to do with it. But like I said, I knew with the mud truck, I thought that'd be kind of cool, just because it was a body that wasn't super popular. So, but yeah, and that was one of those. I think I jumped on it because they were out of stock forever, and then they were finally in stock. So I just ended up jumping on two of them.
There's a shop here that the guy is kind of a hoarder and has like just lots of old stuff. And I haven't been in there in years, but knowing what I know now, I really wish I would have jumped on this. In one of his cases, I don't know what the hell these things fit, but he had a Ford Ranger body. And this was years ago, so it wasn't the Proline one. He had a Ford Ranger, and then he had the rounder nosed S10. You know which one I'm talking about, like before they turned into the Canyon or whatever.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, he had one of those like rounded S10 bodies there, and oh man, I'm just kicking myself for never picking that thing up. That would have been so cool.
Yeah, I need to not be so afraid to like pull the trigger on unusual bodies that I come across, because you just never know when they're going to discontinue them, or if it's already discontinued and it's old stock. I just you don't know.
Well, and some of these weird ones, like we were talking about before the show, are awesome for doing like actual like rock buggies and stuff like that. So can build some really like unique, one of a kind stuff with them.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, speaking of rare bodies, I actually have one of the HPI Venture bodies in clear, still in the bag with the staples and the tag.
That's rad. Hang on to that forever.
I know.
Nice.
I'm afraid to do anything with it. I've had so many people contact me trying to buy it from me. It's ridiculous. I've actually had 3 of those things, but back when they were still producing them is when I got them. I've heard through the grapevine that HPI let the licensing expire, so that's why we haven't seen them come to market for a while.
Oh, makes sense. So are they going to continue a crawler or just offer the body, you think? Depending, I mean, what do you
I
think
don't know.
the plan was there?
Are they still producing the
I'm
Venture?
not sure. I don't know. I don't know if you can buy it in a builder's kit or what. I haven't looked in so long.
Every time I've come across it online, it seems to be out of stock, and it doesn't look to be like, you could pre-order or back order or anything like that.
Right. That's too bad.
Yeah, it's a shame. I never owned a Venture, but being an FJ owner myself, I had to have the body and got lucky enough to come across these ones. Snatched them up while I could.
Yeah, it's not on their website.
Bummer.
Let's see. Oh, wait a minute. Yeah, it is.
Yeah. Yeah, coming across bodies that are no longer produced, it's always a trip. Like I still talk about, so I have a Ford Bronco Wraith specific body that is still in the bag, just because I found them on Amazon and they only had 2 left, so I snagged them up, and one of them is on Michelle's dad's Wraith. And he to this day always goes, what happens if I destroy that body? What am I going to do? Will I ever be able to put it? And I go, yeah, you'll be paying me big bucks for the other one. I said, because they don't even make that anymore. So that's been sitting. A more recent one that I have that's been discontinued that I still have sitting new in the bag. I got the Power Wagon or the Ram Charger?
Ram Charger.
I got the Ram Charger sitting in a bag.
Why did that body get discontinued so fast? It was like on the market for less than a year.
Because Proline.
So Proline does interesting stuff from time to time. Yeah, they do some weird stuff. Like certain things you're just like, why did you discontinue that? Like those are actually really cool. Like I don't know if anybody remembers, because this is going way back. So there were 3 versions of this body: Dodge, Ford, and Chevy. And I think they called them like the CX version is what they called them. Like there was the Blazer CX, the Bronco CX, and the Ram Charger CX. Basically, they were all basically the same thing. They were the ones that it was like a convertible version of those 3 cars, and they came with this plastic cage. I saw the Blazer one, never was able to get my hands on one. I owned a Bronco one, and then the Ram one was like the hardest one to find. Like I want to say that lasted like same thing, maybe a year. They were super cool because they were different from anything else out there on the market, but they didn't last long.
I think they had a Scout one too.
Or maybe it was a Scout. Maybe it wasn't a Dodge. Maybe it was a Scout. Because I know I had the Ford one, because that was Michelle's first crawler, and I ended up giving that to one of my buddy's kids just because it was already painted and kind of cut up. So I was like, there's no way anyone's going to want this. And they wanted a body just to have a beater. So I said, here you go.
Nice. Talking about different bodies and stuff, back to doing those, just kind of Jimmy style rock buggies and stuff. 2 really cool ones would be, before they get discontinued, would be like the MST Subaru Brat, doing that on a Capra. That would look really cool. And then, God, what was the other one that I was just thinking of? I forget who it is, but somebody makes a Subaru Forester, and that front end would look sick as hell on a Wraith 1.9 with that roof and everything.
Yeah.
Do a Subaru Forester front end on it. That would look so freaking cool. Because Wraiths are already kind of station wagon looking anyways,
Right.
Yeah. That's kind of like Chino. He goes by Chino Naz on Instagram. Mm-hmm. He's got that Honda hatchback crawler.
That thing's rad. I don't know why, because usually I hate car bodies on crawlers like that, you know, like cut up and stuff on something with a cage is a different story. But like usually like I'm just not, you know, into the kind of goofy stuff like that. But for whatever reason, dude, that thing, I love it. Like I've loved that thing ever since I first saw the picture of it.
I don't think I've seen that.
It's pretty cool. It's like what, candy red or something, Adam?
It's like, yeah, it's candy red. He's always been different because he owns that car in real life, so he like turned it into a crawler. It's pretty funny.
That dude's a legend. We need to get him on here sometime.
Yeah.
I think everybody knows who Chino is.
Yeah, so Chino Naz, aka Chino Nazaretta. Yeah, he's been in the hobby for a while now, and he works at Delta Hobbies here in Discovery Bay. I think that's where they're located at. They're in Discovery Bay. It's that or Oakley. It's in that, they're all Brentwood area. They're all in it's like the same thing. But yeah, back to some bodies real quick. So I know you have the Cliffhanger and you have the other J Concepts, and they both have the same style paint job, the Milwaukee paint job.
Right.
Why Milwaukee?
No.
Isn't one?
No,
aren't they both?
No, the Cliffhanger that I have is like that kind of honey metallic color with the stripes on the side and the hood.
Oh, okay. I
And
probably have it.
The tucked body that I have from J Concepts is the only Milwaukee one.
Okay.
Then I had a commission job to do another tucked body that had the snap-on theme to it.
Yeah, I'm looking at that right now. No, the reason why, so you know what it is? There was a guy, I forget what his name is now. He did two bodies. One was DeWalt, one was Milwaukee, and you know, everybody in the tool world battled it out to like what one was.
That's 110 Prince.
Okay, that's what it is. I always get it all mistaken because you guys are like the only ones with the Milwaukee theme.
A DeWalt one would be so sick. I would love to see a DeWalt one.
So my question was going to be, why Milwaukee? Me being a Milwaukee tool fan, I know why I would. I just wanted to see why Milwaukee.
Well, I make a living with Milwaukee tools, and yeah, I mean, I've probably got more money in Milwaukee tools than I do RCs, and that's saying something.
Nice. Can't complain and can't blame you there.
Yeah.
Because I kind of do the same thing. Basically, almost every job is done with Milwaukee tools. So.
Yeah, I mean, like even at home, I've got like the little Milwaukee shop vac box deal, and that thing has been amazing. I've got a 16-inch bar Milwaukee brushless chainsaw that I take camping with me. And you know, all the power tools for doing yard work and whatnot. So
I haven't dabbled into the yard work stuff. I'm trying to think the most weird oddball tool that I have from Milwaukee is probably the drain snake. Only because my buddy's a plumber, so I borrowed his because we had a little backup at one of the projects, and I was like, dude, can you come out and snake this real quick? And he's like, dude, I don't have the time. Whatever. He goes, but I'll leave mine out in the bed of my truck. Come pick it up, you know. And then he was teasing me later because I returned it, and he goes, man, I'm sitting here thinking, he goes, Adam's gonna end up buying one of these. Watch. And then next thing you know, I ended up buying one just because it was one of those. I used it, it worked really well, and I couldn't believe it. I was like, wow. So it's like that's like my only really weird oddball Milwaukee tool that I have. Everything else kind of makes sense. I got the 1/2-inch impact. I got bandsaw, sawzall, the hacksaw, circular saw. Trying to think what else. I got my whole hog, the 1-inch rotor hammer. Yeah, I even got the framer, and the finish nailer. So yeah,
That's quite the impressive collection. Is that
well,
the whole hog that almost killed you?
no. So the whole
Dude,
hog.
screw those things.
No. So the whole hog that almost killed me was the corded one. All these are cordless.
Oh yeah, they have no chill.
So the cordless ones, I do it. Well, especially mine, because I have the smaller one. The smaller whole hog, that thing, I'll get that thing stuck all the time, and it will not throw you. Really, anything over a 7/8 hole, that thing really doesn't like to drill. Now you get the super whole hog, which my boss has. That thing actually has a high and a low selection, and that thing will power through, and it's pretty impressive for being a battery operated. So
I don't know where I've been, but I didn't realize that they had brushless chainsaws.
It
Milwaukee,
really is incredible.
I want to say,
It's like programming cards and shit for them.
well, and here's the thing, I could be wrong, but I think Milwaukee might be one of the pioneers putting brushless in almost everything that they put out. Like I know DeWalt, everything was kind of like standard, and then they started having their brushless lineup. I can't say what Makita did because I was never really a Makita fan. But I know like Milwaukee, it's almost like as soon as they developed the fuel system, it's like finding a tool that wasn't brushless was more of like more far-fetched than finding a tool that was brushless.
Do they make non-brush tools?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean,
I own my
brushed.
my first oscillating tool, the AKA the fine saw. My first one is brushed. The one I have now is brushless. And that's mainly because I didn't kill the other one. The threaded part that holds on the blade doesn't stay, like you'll be using it and all of a sudden it'll backspin and the blade will go flying off. So I ended up saying, well, which Milwaukee's good about warranty. I just haven't sent it in, but yeah, that one. And then my hacksaw is a brushed.
But like, I mean, to this day, are they still putting out brushed power tools?
I think so. I think so, because I think some of the drills, I could be wrong though, I think some of the drills you can still get in just standard brushed. Like I said, it's more far-fetched because almost everything you see is the fuel lineup.
Yeah. It's funny, the number one question I get asked when I bring that Milwaukee truck to events and outings and whatnot, or just on social media, is if it has a Milwaukee motor in it. Which would be really cool.
Okay. So it's funny you bring that up because back in the day, like when I first got into RC, people used to take DeWalt motors and put them in the cars because you could, I forget, someone or somewhere you were able to find the replacement motor and you were able to, and people were throwing them in the cars because it had like crazy torque.
I mean, that makes sense.
So that was like an old school, like I'm talking like around like 2010, 2011. That was kind of like the I wouldn't say popular, but like it wouldn't be like, it wouldn't sound weird hearing somebody say, yeah, I put in a DeWalt motor in my crawler. And you're like, you know, like now everyone kind of would be like, are you serious? There's all these different brands out there and you're going to go that route. Whereas back then there really, I think that was, I want to say it was Novak, Tekin, and then I think even like I know RC 4-wheel drive had a bunch of their super cheapo stuff, but I mean there wasn't the amount of brands that there are now. So,
right. I still feel so green in the hobby compared to you guys.
Oh, a lot has happened in the last couple of years. I've thought about some of this stuff too. Like even like looking back at the picture of that clod body build, like I was looking back at like the very first Axial Fest I went to with that, and I'm looking at the date and I'm going, this car's been running for that many years. I was like, man, I can't. Sometimes it feels like it was yesterday.
Yeah, I've only been in the hobby for about 4 years now. Was when I bought that trail honcho. And it's funny, not long after I got that was my first encounter with Jay when I got a Hilux body from Proline and had him make me one of those, what was it, Rigid Industries wraps for it.
Yeah, I remember that.
I
Was
wish
that
I
the
still
one that
had
we did the number onto the window?
Yes, which
Okay,
looked
yeah,
amazing.
I liked that one a lot. I remember that.
I still have the body. It no longer has a wrap on it anymore. It got, like, the color got so scratched off of it. I put more hours of abuse on that body than any other rig in my collection, and it got so ratty looking that, well, I was going to order another wrap for it, but never got around to it. So it's just waiting on the shelf. I was going to ask you about, I have an idea for a wrap for it that I wanted to run by you, see if it was something you'd be interested in doing.
I don't know if we would be able to anymore without having our inkjet. It's gone now, and we just have a Gerber, and the way the cut lines and stuff are on that Hilux wrap, I don't think we would be able to do it on the Gerber, unfortunately.
Oh, no way.
Yeah, so we're kind of cannon wraps and stuff, and we're doing like more like universal decal kits and everything, or graphics kits where you have to paint the body like one or two colors, and then the graphics kind of bridge the two together and tie it all in, like the Walker Evans ones and the Ivan Stewart ones and stuff like that. That's kind of more the direction that we're gonna go with vinyl, because we are getting more into like hard parts and stuff like that. So
Right.
we're kind of, some of these things that we've done in the past, unfortunately, we'll never be able to do again. Like that Black Rifle coffee wrap that's on my Gatekeeper, that is the last wrap I ever printed on that printer.
No kidding.
Yeah, so I'm gonna hang on to that one for sure for probably a very long time, since it kind of closed the, it was like the end of an era.
Right. Now, how come you got rid of the machine?
It
wanting to get out of it?
It was old and it broke, and it wasn't worth replacing. Because like a new one was anywhere between like $7,000 and $12,000, and it was just one of those things. It's like, well, I like using the Gerber machine that we have, and I can print on clear and stuff with it. We're looking at doing parts. Let's just not replace it and just shift our focus to, what we're kind of long term we're planning on, doing. We kind of like stepped up our timeline a little bit more, and are trying to get stuff out faster. And so it's been a weird transition. Fun, but it's been, really different for us, just because that was like the bulk of what we did for so long, and now it's like shifting to time being spent on like packaging stuff up and stuff like that, rather than putting wraps on or printing wraps. Like it's weird how my work days have changed now because of all that.
Yeah, I don't doubt it. Do you feel like this transition has like reinvigorated your passion for the hobby?
Oh yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because I mean, it's like you never really get a break from RC, like in my world, because like it is my hobby and it's work and everything, and so it's hard to like separate the two. But I think what's really got me excited is just the fact that we've got so much new stuff waiting in the wings right now to release and have made, that I just can't help but be excited about it, because it's pretty fun. We got a lot of neat stuff that I never thought I would see the day that we would be doing, because it was like a dream years ago, and now it's all happening. It's pretty wild.
That's so cool.
It's fun. It's scary, but it's fun.
Well, y'all are killing it. I mean, you guys have
thanks, man.
Just a ridiculous lineup of products now. It's really cool. I mean, really kind of raised the bar with the EPX Pro kit.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, that's been a good one. There's some people that are bummed out, but like we've been talking about on the show and stuff, what's coming next is going to be pretty cool.
I don't doubt it. You gonna tell us now?
No, can't yet. I mean, I'm sure everybody knows it's going to be some sort of replacement for it. They just
V2.
don't. Yeah, they just don't know what it consists of yet.
Right.
Project Grande.
You know, it's funny that you say that, because like if I could get away with it, I would give everything stupid names. But like, one of the challenges that we have right now, because we're having to like work on like packaging and stuff like that, so like one of the challenges is just coming up with like a good name. Like, naming stuff is the hardest thing, and so I always go and like name things after characters or places or just words in like the Halo universe or Transformers, or with Trail Slayer some of it's like band and, you know, metal oriented and stuff. And so like I just give everything goofy names, but when we actually have to be like serious and think of something, I'm just like drawing a blank because everything sounds so goofy at first. You know, it's like, what do you do? Is it like Gen 2, 2.0, you know, V2, G2, you know, like what do you do? So it's kind of tricky.
Yeah, it's interesting. I wouldn't have thought of it from that angle.
It's a weird problem to have. And like, I think it's one of the things I think that has helped me all this time was the fact that like I've listened to a lot of metal, and like all of the, for the most part, a lot of songs are really, the titles are super funny, especially with like metalcore and like death metal and stuff like that. And so I think that was kind of one of the things that like helped me look in other areas for product names, you know, instead of just going with like traditional stuff. Because everybody uses like racing terms like, oh, this is the Apex, or this is the, you know, like there's stuff like that all over the place. But like I want to come up with like something that sounds cool and is easy to remember. But the biggest thing is when you're doing a name, you almost have to see it on the screen, like when you're drawing it, for it to kind of materialize. You know, it's like the EPX logo started out just the letters, and then I started adding stuff, and then I added like the little red triangle inside the X, and like it kind of just evolves. But it's like we kind of have to like see the name to figure out if it's going to work as a logo or not. So I mean, it's a stupid problem, but like there's just lots of weird little stuff like that you know, people don't think of, that we've got to like do and come up with, that is actually a lot harder than you would imagine.
Right. Well, a good problem to have.
Yeah, it's fun, but it's like, that's the other thing, is like you want to make sure you do it right, because you can't really go back, you know, like
Yeah,
you can't go back and change it later if you don't like it. And like a lot of the stuff we do is military themed because it just works, you know, like the little car carrying attachments for backpacks and stuff, like loadout, like that just kind of made sense and worked with, you know, what it was and stuff like that. So yeah, it's once in a while you have something and it comes to you really easy, and then another you'll be sitting in front of the computer for a week trying to figure out how to make it work and what's going to look nice.
right. Yeah, those little carabiner clips that you posted about earlier today, it's so funny that those were what you recommended on there, because I've been using those exact things. They come from Amazon.
Yep.
For years now on my backpack, because they're so nice to like lace through like the axle and everything to hook it to your backpack. I've got 4 on there at all times.
Well, we started off like years and years ago. We had these, like, this would have been probably 2016 when we first went to Axial Fest. We kind of had to like go on a shopping trip and get all the stuff ready, because like most of our trail adventures hadn't been very, you know, long or far. And so we had to get like backpacks and hydration packs and stuff like that. And one of the things that we did is we just took normal, just aluminum carabiners and put those on our backpacks, but they would like flop around and be sloppy and stuff, and like it would shift funny and throw your weight off. And so quit using those. And then I found the bungee mollies and used those for a while, but like I just didn't trust those to carry an entire rig. And then we found the plastic ones, and then it was like, oh, perfect. The rear axles of almost every rig are like big and plain. There's not a lot of stuff on them, like steering linkage and stuff like the front. So we'll just use the clips around the back axle and then just use the bungees to tie each front wheel down, and you're done. Get the car off in like well under 10 seconds off your bag and get driving. So it's not like some big project. It was just, like product hunting, like finding something that would work. And like we wanted to do backpacks and everything years ago, but it's just, you end up sitting on so much inventory and money and stuff, and then sourcing it, and then stuff will run out of stock and you can't get the same one back in to sell. So really, like, this little kit was just like a convenience item, and it's stuff like that. It's not like obviously like our main thing, we're not like, oh, we're gonna go after carry all, or that's not what this is. It's more like a kind of like thoughtfully put together little convenience item that is, only $10, and why not for that much? Just throw it in your cart to help justify the shipping expense on whatever else you ordered and call it good. So like you have to have products like that too, like little fun stuff. And so we're trying to find some more things like that. And actually those, that ARB awning that I put on the Night Customs camper, we are going to be selling those now. So that was another cool thing that we've got coming. They're sitting in Chicago, I guess, right now. I was looking at the tracking. So we'll have those that we're going to be releasing pretty soon too. So just kind of like what you were saying about RRW, like just have stuff that nobody else is really doing or done, like just stuff that's kind of a little bit outside the box, like the awning, for example. Like I thought that would be a really cool thing. And we've got window nets coming and some other cool stuff. So we're just trying to like have a broad line of like lots of little things and stuff to where, it's just kind of a one-stop place by the time we're all done.
No, that's an awesome game plan. I like the idea of that. The whole non-mainstream, like unusual products that you don't find like on the shelves at Hobbytown and stuff like that.
Right, exactly.
It's like I can go to a Hobbytown in any different town from state to state to state, and they just like all have the same kind of like min-max ordered things. It feels like I'm walking into the same store over and again.
Right. Yeah.
So
that goes.
It is like those unusual mom and pop style places that I do really enjoy going to, because I see stuff that, you would only otherwise see online.
Yeah, exactly.
Something to be said about like picking up a product and kind of holding it in your hand and getting to look at it before purchasing,
Yeah, exactly. Now, all this stuff's really fun. I mean, it's super, super enjoyable, like trying to source stuff and like find things and like think of different little items and everything. And it's just, I don't know, it's just fun. Like I like the idea of having like fun stuff. We kind of had this like philosophy from the start where we're not gonna just make the same stuff or sell the same stuff that everybody else does. Like we're only gonna make something if we can either do it better or significantly cheaper than somebody else. And that's just kind of the plan that we're sticking to right now. That's why we're not like, oh, let's do backpacks too, or oh, let's go do kinetic winch lines also, because that's hot right now. Like it's just, there's some stuff that people are doing out there and they're doing it well, and it's like I don't want to like enter into that, because it's just, it sometimes it can create more work for yourself too, and create animosity because you're trying to sell something that somebody else sells. So I mean, it's tricky with some of that stuff, but all in all, it's a good time.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I feel like you guys have really cornered a market here with like the products that you guys offer, and keep evolving further down that path. And it just there isn't anyone else that seems to be like even remotely on the same frequency as SOR.
Rad. Thanks, man. That's crazy hearing somebody say something like that.
Thank you.
It's weird. Because like us, like Travis and I joke around, like we talk about SOR, like, you know, oh, we're just basically a glorified Etsy store, you know, like stuff like that. Like, you know, like we just, I don't know, we don't really see
don't think
things
I've
the way
ever
other
said that.
people do. I've said it to you a couple times.
Oh.
Hey, that's not an insult. Etsy is awesome.
Yeah, you know, like with Etsy, it's like stuff you can't find, you know, other places or don't expect to find. And like that's, you know, like it's more like hobbyist or craftsman type things that you see people selling on Etsy. And like that's kind of some of the things that we are doing, you know, like it's, I don't know. That's the best comparison I have, because we're not big, obviously. We don't have departments. There's 3 people that do everything here, and that's really it. You know, like my mom does all of our bookkeeping and accounting stuff right now, and then Travis and I kind of pick up the rest. So we got derailed on the questions, didn't we?
No, we were done with questions.
Because we started talking about rigs, and then I thought we just went crazy from there.
No, we started talking about rigs because I had questions about the Milwaukee truck.
Oh yeah,
so
I love that thing.
And then it got kind of, I guess you'd say, derailed from there.
Yeah, the Milwaukee truck cleans up pretty good still, but it's I won't let anyone get too close because it's pretty beat up. It's been shoe gooed and gorilla taped more times than I can count, and I've tried touching up the paint where it's like chipped off, and it's gotten to the point where it's too much to keep up with the paint on it. So it's a very sentimental body to me now. So I've been toying with the idea of retiring it so I can kind of put it up on the shelf and enjoy it, and doing another body for it.
That would be kind of a cool, like, nostalgia piece to have, like, sitting around, you know, your garage or shop or wherever you work on stuff. That would be pretty neat.
Yeah, for sure. That's what I'd like to do with it, but I haven't figured out what I want to do to, like, because I want to do another tucked body. I really do like this body from J Concepts, but I also want to raise the bar, and like in some regard that paint job kind of put me on the map a little bit, and you know, you always want to keep improving and raising the bar. So I've just been toying around with different ideas and haven't committed to any new schemes yet for it.
Nice. Yeah, I mean, I've done that a handful of times. Like when I retired the black and white Cherokee, that's what got turned into the black and gold JK. So that thing just hangs on the wall. And it's kind of like one of those, like you said, it's kind of a, you know, you've nostalgic piece. So you're just like, yeah, before it gets too destroyed, I'm going to put it over here. And that way I can still at least look at it. Like I got one of probably, I'd have to say the only decent paint job I've ever done on a car. I did the Wrangler, the G6 version, where it was kind of like pinched in the rear.
That thing is a cool body. I miss that one a lot.
So what a lot of people didn't realize with that body, and that this was kind of like innovative at the time, was Axial designed that to work with both of their platforms at the same time.
The Wraith.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that was pretty cool. Like Proline had a Bronco fit the Wraith too, like that.
Yeah. I have that one, but what I'm saying is they actually, so like if you bought it as normal G6 body, you could mount it on your SCX10. If you hogged out the center, it went around the Wraith perfectly.
Yep.
So
Deadbolt too. Deadbolt fit the Wraith also.
Yes. So I took so I did that and I painted it up for a Crawl Fair Cure 2016. And I thought it turned out pretty cool. So I actually have that sitting there. And actually, what's really crazy about that event was the 2016 year, it was so small. There was only like I want to say there was like 50 people there tops, and there was only like 10 of us that did, cancer theme paint jobs, and that one actually won, which actually like kind of blew me away, because I was like, I didn't do it to try and like win anything, but it was like, it just shows you how small of an event it was back then versus like now. Like the last year, the farewell, I mean, there's like 300 and something people there. There's, I don't know how many people entering in the, best theme or this, that, and the other. And it's like, it's crazy to see what it turned into. But yeah, I have that body still. And that one's kind of like another one that's just hanging there, because, did a pretty good job on the paint, even though it's very basic. Nothing too crazy, but
They're basic.
Yep, basic. A basic B.
It's crazy that the three of us are so, I mean, we've had an entire episode almost of just talking about bodies, but I feel better knowing that I'm not like the only weird like body hoarder though.
Oh, I used to be bad. Okay, because like everybody knows that I'm a big Chevy fanatic, and like
no.
I thought you liked Fords.
And so like there was a time where I literally had almost like every kind of Chevy body that was available. And like some of them I just throw off to the side and just like, yeah, maybe one day I'll turn this into something. So I just throw it off to the side. I still have some Chevy bodies, which, I probably could, fork over, because they, like I said, I'll probably never do anything with them. Like actually one of them I do have to put up for sale was what my current 90s body replica was going to be. But it was one of those things. It was right before, oh, there goes my phone. It was right before 3D printing really took off, and you couldn't get like it was basically like, if you were a 3D printer, you printed out jerry cans, you printed out first aid kits, nobody was really doing bodies yet. So way back in the day, there used to be a Radio Shack monster truck, the Monster Patrol, which was based off of a 90s Chevy. It popped up for sale. I jumped on it. It was a single cab. I was like, okay, well, it's a hard body, so, I could probably turn it into an extended cab from scratch, yada, yada, yada. Well, then I started realizing it was designed to be a monster truck body, so the fender wells are hogged out from the factory. So I was like, there's a lot of work I'd have to do to make this work. And I know it was still a body, though, that some people wanted. But I still was just like, I don't know what I'm going to do with it. So now that I got a 3D printed version, I'm like, okay, this thing can go. I have no use for it.
Yeah, it's tough trying to adapt monster truck bodies to crawlers. I had to problem solve that for a while with that dent side I just finished.
Well, what's funny is, like I said, when I first got into crawling, which was back in like 2010, 2011, some of the bodies that you had to make work were designed to be monster truck bodies. It was crazy, because it's like you'd look at the body and you'd read what platforms it would fit, and then you had to try and like decipher, okay, would that work for this? And yeah, and then a lot of them was, are you going to custom make the wheelbase fit? And then at the time, some people it was all plug and play, so there wasn't a lot of custom. Like like that's why I'm saying, like, watching what's going on now, especially within the last couple of years, is like insane, because it's like everybody now, like I was actually just talking to Ryan Crowley earlier today about this, because he was picking my brain about making links. He's like, how do you make links? Like, how do you do that? And it's like, what's funny is it's like the level of like confidence that more people have now, because it just seems to be like a normal thing to do. Like, oh, I'm going to, do custom links, or, oh, I'm going to do this, or I'm going to mod this, or I'm going to mod that. Like, it's starting to become more of a normal thing. Whereas like when I first got into this, it was plug and play. People would buy a prefab bumper from like RC 4-wheel drive, and they would just bolt it up, and that was it. There was no like, well, if I have a welder or even brazing, brazing something I'd love to get into.
It's fun.
Yeah, just haven't really. I mean, I guess so. Do you braze any of your bumpers and stuff?
So recently, I switched over to TIG welding them, but I started out brazing them, yeah. And I mean, there's still something to be said with the brazing. I find the braze to be it's like smoother and just kind of more seamless looking than the welds. However, I feel like it takes me a lot longer with the brazing because like with welding, I can just like clamp it down to the table with vice grips and then like zap it and it's, good to go. Whereas with the brazing, I'd have to like, you know, kind of get these elaborate jigs together to hold everything in place so that I could do it. But it just, the TIG welding is just so much faster now. It's like cut in half the amount of time it takes me to make a bumper or sliders or something now.
Nice.
What can somebody get into a TIG welder for these days, anyways? I haven't priced welders and stuff like that in forever.
So I don't own one, but where I work, we have lots of them. And so I just use those ones there. And I think that those things are like upwards of $5,000 or more a piece.
Oh, wow.
But I mean, they're like overkill for what I'm doing. But
Sure.
yeah, I mean, like, I don't know. I was at Harbor Freight. Not that that's where you would want to buy a welder from, but looking at ones that were like, I want to say 150 or 200 amp were like just under 1,000.
Wow. Interesting.
So, Jay, to answer your question, if you just do like a quick, like I just did a quick like Google search. It really depends on what you're looking at, because like they have their ads at the top. So like you can get something, like for instance from Eastwood sells, I think it's their brand of TIG welder, and they range anywhere. Like this one is from Eastwood. It's a 200 amp. Well, these are both 200 amp. One's 579, the other one's 869. But then you get into something like crazy, like Miller. You're looking at like $1,500.
Jeez.
So I mean, it really depends, And then there's this one. It's a multiple, so you can do. I mean, I don't know how good it'd be. It's a Lincoln Electric multiple. You can do MIG, stick, or TIG, and it's 686. So I think that's really
depends.
That's
not too bad.
I mean, look, you can get a Vulcan, which isn't a bad welder, and that's from, I think that's Harbor, that they sell it at Harbor Freight. Yeah, $1,100. So I think it really depends on like what you're getting. I mean, come on now. Now here's even one for, it's a Jegs TIG welder, 200 amp, 342, quote unquote, from Walmart.
Interesting.
So I mean, like realistically, it's going to be what you can find. And I mean, everybody's got, which was something that, like, especially being like into fabricating and all that stuff, like some people have to realize like not everyone's going to have the same access to the same tools. So it's like try to find what works for you. But I know some people that can weld with like with the Hobart welders, and it comes out cherry, like, and it's an RC car. You're not building some, full tilt life-size rock buggy. You're building a little car. It comes out looking, really good. But TIG welding was definitely one of those I would like to get into. I just MIG everything together, which becomes an art in itself, because you don't have it set up just right. It'll look like a big blob, or it'll look like booger welds holding everything together. Like,
I think what I'm going to do is, like, listening to what you're saying, what I think I'll do is tack it together with the MIG and then braze it. Like, tack it on the inside where you can't see it and then go back and braze it.
Yeah, that could work.
Yeah.
Because then you wouldn't have all the fixture or as much of the issues with like needing fixturing and stuff like that. I mean, it'd be handy having some of those magnets and stuff like what Andre uses, but that would work pretty good, I think.
See, my problem is everything that I've fabbed, I make out of stainless, so none of it's magnetic.
Oh.
So I like literally like like hand cut, make my brackets to like bolt to the frame rails, and then I have to bolt them on there and start like tacking on my 316 rod from there, because that's the only way. I mean, unless I were to like go a little more in depth with this and like create some sort of a permanent jig that's frame rail width, but I really prefer to like do it on the trucks, because like I've found like all my friends that like have, you know, aftermarket chassis, it's all kind of different widths, so there's not really a standard size that would work for all of them. So that's why it's just easiest for me to build them right on the truck every time. So yeah, it's a little bit trickier with brazing, because, you know, I use like an acetylene turbo torch. It's not like the little yellow map gas ones. So it's a bit of an art form putting heat shields up, like of all different shapes and sizes, like around the rig to braze it while it's on the truck. I really should make some sort of a jig, but you know.
Yeah, brazing can be an art form. A buddy of mine, his son just got into that, and he was sending me a bunch of pictures last night of all the stuff he's brazing. I almost was going to ask him, are you sure you're not building a real life, you know, exhaust system? Because his exhaust that he brazed up, I'm like, dude, you put in the same kind of effort that you would put in on a real car. Like, it's got hangers, it's got all this stuff, and I'm just like, it blows me away. I'm just like, you know, brazing comes out super clean.
Yeah, it really does.
So, I mean, some of that, it's to kind of, you know, show how clean it is like, I have a UC Fab chassis, and you look at it and you're just like blown away, because you're just like, everything looks seamless. Like, it's all just like perfect. And you're like, this is like crazy that you can get something this small to look that good.
Yeah. Are those UC Fab chassis brazed or welded?
Brazed.
Oh, no kidding.
Mm-hmm. Huh. Most of them are brazed. Like, I think what he does is, and I could be wrong, is I think he's actually like, some of them were TIG welded and or I think tacked together, but a lot of the stuff, like the one I have, I know for a fact is all brazed, because there's not one spot on there that's not like, that just doesn't look like it just was like seamless into the next.
That's killer.
So,
yeah, that's what I like more about the brazing. It just, like I said, takes me too much time. That's the problem, is like I have all this equipment at work, and I'm doing all this stuff after I've just got done working a whole day, and past a certain point I just want to go home. So I always opt for what takes the least amount of time, but isn't always like the best looking thing, you know?
Yeah, I hear that. And that's kind of like, that's been the story of my life with RC. That's why it's funny that, like, you know, being, you know, not at work for 10 days and you're like, all right, so what am I going to do? Like, I knocked out a bunch of little projects, worked on a bunch of stuff. Because like, same thing, when you're at work all day dealing with other stuff. And I mean, my work's not even related to anything really that has to do with RC. I'm in construction, and it's like, you know, I just burnt out, and you're just like, I don't want to deal with this. You're like, okay, I'll put it on the back burner till next time.
Yeah, I can relate with that for sure. That's why I want to, because I just bought my first house back in April, and I've got a garage that my FJ obviously doesn't fit inside of. So there's just nothing in there, and I just have these visions and dreams of like turning it into my at-home workshop for doing tiny truck stuff and fabbing things. And I've been looking at, that's why you were when you're asking about the welders, I was saying that I was looking at Harbor Freight recently, just because I don't need anything like overkill, but I've been interested in starting to cultivate my own little at-home workshop with you know, smaller scale versions of everything I've got at work. And that way I can probably hone in my skills on it a little bit more and be a little bit more willing to work on this stuff all the time, because I'm already at home, you know, and I'm not having to be at work for 12, 13 hours.
Yeah, it's definitely a plus. The other thing that's also a good option too is, I'm not sure about your area, but I know like where I live, a lot of people will post stuff up. Well, it's sad because like Craigslist is becoming a thing of the past, but like there used to be a lot. Yeah, there's a lot of people that used to post a lot of stuff. Like you can find some good deals on Craigslist. There's always also the possibility that it's a scam and or junk, but that's kind of like the situation I was in with my welder. I actually wanted to get into welding. I was doing the route of looking at Home Depot, Harbor Freight, trying to figure out what would be the best, bang for my buck. And then my buddy was actually moving 2.5 hours away to Roseville, and he had a 240 welder that he used for everything, and he had a 120 welder that he rarely used. And he was like, I'm not bringing both of them with me. He's like, I'm putting it up for sale. And I'm like, well, how much do you want for it? And he's like, if it's going to you, he goes, with the cart, and I'll give you the bottle. He goes, $600, it's yours. And I was like, all right, sold, cause I was getting a Miller-Matic. I think the model's 140, and it's perfect for what I use. Now I can't go the opposite direction. I can't really do a lot of like 1-to-1 welding with it because it doesn't get that hot, but for the RC stuff, it works great.
Right.
And
yeah, I'd like to find a deal like that. I miss Craigslist, man.
Yeah, now everybody's on Facebook Marketplace.
Yeah, and which I don't have Facebook except for today for you guys.
Yeah,
so
no,
lucky.
I can definitely see why. It's, like for the longest time, I was a holdout. I didn't really do the whole Facebook thing. Like it actually really wasn't until the RC life started taking off that it was kind of like one of those things that it kind of like had to happen. So, cause I was like, when I first got into this, the big thing was forums like RC Crawler.
Right.
That was where everybody posted everything. That's where everybody, did everything. And then it all started drifting over to Facebook, and it was kind of like, well, this is lame. Cause like, how am I supposed to see this? Or how am I, supposed to, like, my buddy be like, hey, I just bought this. It was on Facebook or did it. And you're like, so now I'm kind of like having to go that direction if you want to stay somewhat involved. And then Instagram took off, and I've always been on Instagram more than Facebook.
Yeah, it's just Instagram's the only social media that I've got anymore.
Well, it's just easier, in my opinion, and it's like straight to the point.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
There's a little whatever description with it, and that's it. Move on. There's not this like, I call it like the rabbit hole. This is tied in with this person, and they're trying to post it on this page, and then you end up seeing it 4 times because it's spread out across 6 different pages, and
Yeah, that is the one bummer about being Facebookless is that finding out about crawling events, I have to just rely on my friends to inform me and screenshot stuff and send them to me, and it's been relatively successful so far. I mean, I don't know how many years. It's probably been 4 or 5 years that I've been off Facebook now, but yeah, the events thing is the bummer.
Yeah,
seems
I can
like
see
that's where it all congregates.
But sometimes, I mean, depending on what it is, sometimes, like I know when we were with CKRC, I was always a big advocate of sharing it on both platforms so that way people knew what was going on. Because if you're just doing it all on one, you're kind of robbing your audience because, there are a lot of people that they either A, have Facebook, but they're rarely on it, or B, only have one source of, social media. So this way you're able to just, broadcast it out to everybody.
Right.
Which is actually one thing. Well, actually, no, I did announce it. I said Sack the Ripper at the beginning, which actually I'm always curious to know, how did you come up with that Instagram name?
It's funny. Nobody ever asks me that. It's well, obviously it's a play on Jack the Ripper, right? But my initials are SAC.
Oh, okay.
Okay.
Okay, so now it makes sense. No, because like I was like kind of curious because I was like, because it's always interesting to hear like there's some people that have these wild stories to why their name is what their name is on Instagram. And it's always interesting to hear too, because especially with Instagram, you get that creativity to like come up with whatever.
Mhm.
Whereas like on Facebook, you're using your personal name. So it's like so-and-so posted this, you're like, you know exactly who it is because it's like their personal name. But it's always been a trip. Like you go out to these events and like, you know what the name is on Instagram, and then you put the face to the name and everything. And then sometimes going, well, wait a second, why did they decide to call it that? And it's, yeah. So it's always interesting to hear. Everyone's got a different story.
Yeah. It didn't occur to me until afterwards that I chose that as my identity. That it sounded mildly inappropriate.
Yeah, not really.
But no, I like it.
But yeah. Yeah, no, because even to this day, sometimes I'll get that. Like I know when people recognize me from whether it's Facebook or Instagram because of what they'll say on the trail. Like this last year at Axial Fest, we stopped at one of the, like, whatever you want to call it, the hydration booth, and we were hanging out, and somebody came by and said, "Oh, it's Dean's RC. What's up?" And it's like, so if you're calling me by that, then I know you don't know who I actually am, because everybody knows my name's Adam. So it's kind of funny to hear that, and you're like, okay, so you know me through, that's my Instagram stuff.
Right.
So, but it's funny. Then there's some people, like I've had conversations with people, like they're like, "Oh, haven't you seen my stuff?" And you're like, "Did it?" And then like pull it up, and you're like, "You're so and so." It's like, holy crap! It's like putting face to names sometimes is pretty funny.
Yeah, it's funny. Like you'll know somebody by their rig, but you won't know which person with the transmitter is driving it.
That's what I was going through or going to next, because like I was telling Jay about that. Like this year at Axial Fest, he had just come out with wraps for the Rift, and there was a guy on trail with a Rift, and it had a Trail Slayer wrap on it. I'm sitting here going, who the hell has this? And then finally I kept asking around, like, whose rig is this? And like this one guy said, "Oh, that's this guy over here." And I went to talk to him, and there was a little bit of a language barrier because he was Russian. They flew in from Russia to go to Axial Fest. And I'm sitting here going, I'm like, "Jay, did you even know that you guys sent out a wrap to Russia?"
I didn't know that. I mean, we've sent stuff like all over the place, like Japan and Norway and Australia, but like not Russia. That would have stood out in my mind because I would have made some sort of joke about it.
Yeah, so
like it's not his rap, it's our rap or something.
Well, but no, it's pretty funny. So, and I forget, he said he ordered it from, so I think he ordered it from like A-Main or something, but like he didn't order it directly, but I thought it was crazy because I was like, he just released these wraps, like, and it's funny to see one in the wild, and especially from somebody who's like overseas. So, but
that's pretty rad.
Yeah. So, yeah. So the only thing, since we're a little off, and anybody who's listening probably doesn't realize that we're recording this on a Saturday instead of our typical Wednesday, do we put up any like questions for anybody?
I don't think we did.
No, we didn't.
This was a surprise.
A surprise?
It was a surprise for everyone.
I appreciate y'all moving it to Saturday for me.
Oh, no problem, dude. We've been trying to make this happen for a long time. I'm sorry we couldn't do it sooner.
No worries. I'm just it's a privilege and an honor to be here. You guys are like RC celebrities to me.
Oh, jeez.
See, that's one thing like I don't understand, because it's like, especially now with how many quote unquote people are doing like stuff like this. Like for instance, like what's his name? Is it Cali RC Crawler? I think is his name. I met him for the first time at Axial Fest, and it's kind of like, it's like he does his own little stuff on Instagram, and he's been getting kind of like, he's pretty popular in the SoCal area, and it's just funny to see how many like personalities and stuff there are in the hobby now. Because it's like like I said, it goes back to when I first got into it. It's like there's only a handful of people that were like doing this as quote unquote like a job or lifestyle, I guess you can say. Like I know Harley's been doing it forever, and now he's out here in my backyard, which was always kind of like a kind of weird to begin, like when you first like thought about it, because you're like, this is somebody I've watched on YouTube for like 4 years, and now he lives in my backyard. Like we're gonna run into him at events. Like it's just kind of like weird when you're like, yeah, okay, this is somebody that you watch forever, and then it kind of becomes surreal, but then eventually it just becomes like everyday thing. It's just like most of the people in the hobby are your everyday people. Like they don't, I've yet to really run into somebody. Well, I take it back. I'm not going to name their name though, but there's really, I guess, other than him, there's only one person that has ever like really acted like, oh, do you know who I am? Other than that, it's like everybody, they're just like, yeah, they're in the hobby. It's another day. They're, nothing special.
Well, now you got to say who it was.
I just don't want to go down that rabbit hole. Of,
Especially since you said that they're not special too. Jeez.
Yeah, you're really
special.
putting them on blast, Adam.
It's nobody special.
I just don't want, no, my whole thing is I don't want to go down the name calling because it's a personal opinion and stuff that I've seen. So it's like I can't totally, maybe I'll tell you guys afterwards, but I'm going to say professionalism. I'm not going to go down that rabbit hole.
Yeah, I'm just picking on you.
No, I get it. But that's how it is.
Advocating drama.
No, see, that's the thing. It's not drama. And that's the worst part about everything nowadays too, is it's like you have to watch like what you say because it could be taken in so many different contexts. And it's just, that's the other downfall to social media that I've always had is that it's like, if you can't, if your opinion doesn't go with what's like the quote unquote norm, then you can get bashed for that. If you say your own opinion which is your opinion and somebody else doesn't agree, they can start a whole battle about it. So, I catch myself now and then when we're doing the show, like you'll be thinking about something and then it kind of like just comes out and then you're kind of going, as you're saying it, you're going, I probably shouldn't be saying this. And that was kind of one of those moments. I'm like, it was one of those, I was just kind of firing off and I was like, wait a second. Nah, I'm not going to go down that route. So, but
on another note, I wanted to touch base. Jay, you were talking recently about some curiosity you had about the J Concepts Tusk tires.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to say you should absolutely try those.
Oh, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah.
They look killer. So, I mean, I'd like to.
Yeah, they. I originally was going to. It was before they released the Tusk, but I was originally going to. I wanted to try out those RC four-wheel drive Mickey Thompson Baja Pro X, maybe they're called.
Yeah,
I think you have a set.
I do. They're weird.
Yeah, and I mean, and that overall is like sort of the reputation of like RC four-wheel drives tires. It's like they do a killer job with the aesthetics of their tires.
Oh, absolutely.
But the performance of them like is, it's kind of a trade-off. You're getting a better appearance for a little less grip. And so I haven't got any of their tires right now, but I really like the look of those, especially when you had them on your rig. I want to say it was the Ecto.
Oh, yeah.
Just looks so mean. But I couldn't get myself to pull the trigger on the tires because, like I said, I've just seen a lot of spinning with those.
Well, their old compound wasn't as bad. Like we've got a set of old IROCs here that were like, I think Trav had used them in 2016 at Axial Fest, and they felt more like G8s. Like Proline's G8 compound, but the new RC four-wheel drive compound, and I don't remember the name of it because there's just so many, but they're sticky, but then if you get any dust on them, they turn slippery. It feels like you coated the tire in baby powder is the best way I can explain it. Like,
Yes.
it's this plasticky, slippery feeling when it gets dirty, but before they get dirty, they feel awesome. You know, like, oh man, these are going to be great. And then you drive it and you're like, what the hell? I mean, and it's too bad because their stuff looks so good. And I wish they had that option of using that older compound, because I would probably use those tires way more. Like, the only time that I've used those was in the snow that day on the Forerunner, the Halo truck, just for the hell of it. And then Travis and I used them on the Ecto for a video. And because I had just gotten done rock racing, or doing like Southern style rock bouncer rock racing with the Ecto. And we had gone and did a video of it, and it was a real dusty day, and it was kind of this red clay dirt that was there, but when it's dusty, it's real fine. And oh my God, dude, those tires were just worthless the entire day. It was hot out, sunny, everything. Rock, it didn't matter how clean the rock was or anything, it would just not get any kind of grip. It was terrible.
Yeah, they just feel, once they get dusty or dirty, they like feel like rubber gloves almost. Like when you pull them out of the box and they're kind of like powdery and flimsy.
It's the strangest thing. I mean, there's so many different RC car tire compounds out there. And I mean, even with like racing and stuff, I mean, because Travis and I have raced off-road for years and years. And during that time, we've probably encountered like every type of rubber compound that is used in the industry. And those tires are a first that I've ever had anything behave like that. It's just the weirdest thing.
Yeah, so that's why I ultimately didn't pull the trigger on those tires. I really wanted to, but then the tusks came out and they looked the part. I mean, they're like,
they do. They look really close.
Right, almost the exact same thing. And I thought, why the hell not? They're the size that I needed to fit this monster truck body. They're like a 3.93. They also, as you know, offer them in the 4.75, which I don't have, but would like to. But yeah, the size was right for the look that I was going for on this build. So I thought, why not? And pulled the trigger on them and tried them out. And it was like a high 50s, maybe low 60s sunny day. It was a really beautiful day out, and went and hit this rocky trail up on the Blue Ridge Parkway. And dude, they were killer. I mean, they felt and acted just like G8 from Proline.
Oh, great. Okay.
I could not have been more satisfied with them. Really, really stoked, to the point where like as soon as I got home, I was like, maybe I should get a set of the XLs for like my Milwaukee truck or something.
I'm gonna have to check that out, because I really do like how they look. And J Concepts is just, as far as scale stuff, like racing, we were always, somewhat familiar with their products, and then we stopped racing, and like now it's like I know nothing about the stuff that they do, and they're kind of just not really on my radar necessarily, because we don't normally use like their bodies or anything on stuff. But
yeah, they they are kind of unusual, their bodies, I will say. And the Landmine tires, I've had a handful of friends that have had those, and wasn't particularly impressed with them. Kind of the same deal, like, I mean, then they're the same compound as the tusks, but I don't know if the tread design or pattern or temperatures or what, played factors in those days, where, like I said, I was a little bit shied away from it because they were just spinning on the rocks, not getting any grip. So I was kind of going out on a limb here, but man, I don't know if they changed the green compound or something like that. I'm not sure. They feel and perform like G8, so I wouldn't recommend them otherwise.
Now the Ruptures, they're the ones that look like HB Rovers, and then like those one pit bulls, right? A real kind of open tread design with some like kind of hollowed out blocks and stuff.
Which ones?
The Ruptures. Am I thinking of the right ones?
I'm not sure. I'm not familiar with too many of their other tires.
because there's one that almost looks like a BFG all-terrain.
Scorpios.
Yeah, those. A buddy of mine tried those up here and didn't care for them, but at the same time, though, I mean, that's like a really, really closed-in tread pattern for any kind of mud, and so
Right.
I can kind of understand why those don't work super great up here. I mean, like in the summertime, the Proline BFG all-terrains work awesome when it's hot out and sunny, but in the wintertime, forget it. They just pack up. So I kind of figured, like, I never tried those. The Ruptures looked too much. If I'm thinking of the right name, they looked a little bit too much like, like what you would see on like a HPI crawler back in the day or something. That's kind of a strange tread pattern.
Yeah. I like I like these tusks a lot. I don't know. I think you should try them out. What rig were you wanting them to put them on?
Any of them. I just wanted to try them. I mean, I would probably end up using them on the Ecto, just because they look like they'd probably clean out this time of year with it being muddy and stuff. They'd probably clean out a little bit better than the Generals that are on it right now.
Right. I will say that the foams in them, and to my advantage in this application for whatever reason, they're kind of like, how in pit bull tires, some of them come with dual stage foams, but they're both open cell.
Right.
So this is a single stage foam, but the whole thing feels like the inner, like slightly firmer open cell foam of the pit bull tires.
Interesting.
So with the XLs, I would probably think that would make it maybe a little too rigid. Like if you were to get the 475 size.
Yeah, my kind of go-to foam is the Proline dual stage one, so I'd probably see if those would fit in there. That's been kind of my go-to lately. I like them because they have just the right amount of squish and not too soft, not too stiff. Like they're just a good tire, or good foam. I mean, sorry.
I've been running my Proline dual stage foams in that Milwaukee truck like for probably, I guess, 4 years now. Back when I got those when I was still running the Trail Honcho body.
They're so good. Like they're just, for whatever reason, most of the cars that I build are around that 6-7 pound range, and it's just a really, really good foam. I've had great luck with them.
Yeah, I have no complaints about them. I like those foams a lot. But yeah, that's what I was saying was you might end up wanting to get some of those dual stage foams for those if you end up going that route.
Yeah, I'll have to try them. They are pretty nice. Like I'm actually looking at those on A-Main right now. That is such a good looking tire.
Yeah, and you mentioned the Scorpios. It's funny because like I don't know what the deal is, but everyone in like Western North Carolina right now is going crazy over those Scorpios.
Really?
Like everyone in our like semi-local community has a set of those now and loves them. They're just like can't talk them up enough.
Wow.
I don't have a set though. Yeah, their bodies you're talking about are a bit unusual, a little less, mainstream looking than other body companies like
I saw he just released the Gozer for a crawler too.
Yeah, I guess they matched it to the 12.3 wheelbase, but I kind of like their bodies are a bit odd because like not a lot of people are using them, and it's like I like the added challenge of trying to like make kind of the ugly duckling cool, like the challenge of trying to make it something that other people would like as well,
Exactly. Yeah, so it's for 12.3. That cage is sick on it. That must be 3D printed.
Yeah, you got to get it from Shapeways.
Oh no, that's too bad.
Would have been cool if it was like an
part.
injection molded part that came with it. Would be sweet.
Oh, speaking of Proline, that's some news. Proline released that Gen 2 Tacoma.
Oh yeah, what do you think of that?
with like a molded grill, and I think it's cool that they have all the injection molded pieces to like trim it out and stuff. I think, I don't know, like the light buckets, all that stuff looked really good. It looks funny to me on a 12.3. I wish they would have done 12.8 like they did the Night Runner.
Right.
It just looks a little more scale. Like I look at that thing and a 1.9 wheel is like the same size or bigger than, you know, like a roll down window on the side of the thing. So it just, it's just, there's something off. And it's like, the more I look at it, the more stuff I find, and I end up not caring for it. And it makes me like the metric more, because the metric being a extra cab on a 12.3 is just perfect looking. Like it's a good scale, you know, like it looks nice. You know, you can put 4.19s on it. That's about the biggest, you know, that you'd probably want to go with a metric. But I don't know, man. I just can't get behind that new one, and it's too bad. Like I wanted to like it, but you know, because it'd be neat to have another Toyota in the garage. But oh well.
Yeah, there's like something off about like the dimension of like the side of the body and the dimensions of the roof. Like it looks like the roof area, like windows and everything, is like one scale smaller than the rest of the body.
Yeah.
So I saw this comment a lot, and it's kind of true in my opinion. So a lot of people started commenting, this reminds me of the great Gladiator debacle
Yes.
of last year.
Yes.
When it came out and something just doesn't look right about it. And I think what the problem comes down to is, and I know we've touched base on this a lot on this show, is the fact that everybody uses 12.3 for some reason as a standard. That's like the standard go-to wheelbase, which is fine. Okay. You guys have established a wheelbase to go to. Now, what they need to start looking at is look at like the real world. Okay. You park a Jeep Wrangler next to a Ford F-350. The Ford F-350 is going to be bigger than the Wrangler. You can't have something that's the same. It's just not going to work, because now you've shrunken down or enlarged the other one to fit what it is that you're, you know, working with. So it's like you have, and I think that's like what some people always like kind of battle is they say, yeah, it's a 1/10 crawler. But if you actually look at some of these, they're actually saying, oh no, these bodies are really a, you know, like for instance, somebody made a comment about this the other night. I forget what I was watching, and they said, oh, it's not like the Axial SCX 10.3 body, which is actually a 1/8 scale body, you know. And I'm like, well, that makes sense, because it is a little bit bigger to fit that, but it looks really good. Like it's all proportionalized properly. But then you go and take something like this new Toyota that comes out, and it's like they had to like cut corners to get it to work with what they were trying to achieve, which at the end of the day, it's, can you guys just stick to, okay, we want to make it a 4-door, and we realize we're going to have to, you know, tweak some designing to get it to work. Why don't you just make it a different wheelbase, you know, and just call it a day? That's what it is. But make it something so you know that the average crawler person can just buy those different links or whatever it is to change it. And then you have something that looks, quote unquote, you know, right.
Yeah.
And that's the biggest problem. And I even made a comment, I think it was on Scale Builders Guild's post about that. They said, what do you think about this? And there's a lot of people saying stuff. And I just made the comment that, you know, should be IFS and should have smaller tires. And somebody, you know, asked me, well, why do you say that? Haven't you ever seen a built Toyota? And it's like, well, yeah, I've seen a built Toyota, but let's be real. Your average Toyota driver that's going to buy this is still IFS and, you know, not on tires that look like they're 38s.
Yeah, that's true.
So
I think they missed the boat with the wheelbase, dude, just because you got the Night Runner, it would have dropped right on it. Many of the TRX 4s are 12.8, I believe. I mean, it just, why that? And they went back to a single piece. They didn't do the separate bed, did they?
No.
I don't think so.
God, why would you? It's just such a step backwards. I don't understand it. And like the
I just
Ranger
found-
looks kind of funny too. Like, why in the hell did you guys make a long bed standard cab? Like, why?
Yeah, it's again. I think it's to fit. It's to fit the wheelbase they're going for. Whereas, like I was saying, back when like I first got into this, like I remember the one Chevy body I used, you had to read what the wheelbase was and then go, will that work? Can I make that work with this? And then you're adjusting your wheelbase accordingly to like what you're getting. Whereas now it's like they're trying to, which I said, I just said it. They're trying to cater to the person that just wants to throw this on the rig, and they're trying to make it super easy. But the problem is you don't have just the person in this hobby that's cookie cutter. You got the custom people, and you got the people that are like, all about the scale details and being realistic about it. So that's the other, aspect I see becoming an issue.
I find it to be just kind of an odd choice to release that body after like the Night Runner.
Well, yeah, and then they
came
already
out and
had
was
the
so-
metric. I mean, why?
Yeah. Is it a different generation Tacoma?
Then the
The
Night
new-
Runner?
Yeah.
Yeah. The Night Runner's Gen 3 and the new Proline's Gen 2.
Oh, okay. They look really similar. I didn't notice.
Yeah, they're close.
Still an odd choice. Like, I would be excited if they had made maybe like a Tundra body.
Yeah, that would have been cool. And do it big for like the Gladiator chassis.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
That would have been cool,
definitely.
right?
Yeah, they did. They've only made one body, I think, like an alternate for the Gladiator chassis. That like 2015 Silverado came out like maybe, I don't know, 2 months ago.
When did they release the GMC Dually? I just saw
About
that today.
2
I didn't
weeks
even know
ago.
that came out. No kidding, huh?
Yeah. Which is
That's-
also 12.3.
Yeah, standard cab long bed, and it's the same size as the Ranger that they have.
Which has always been my complaint about
I
everything.
know. So are we picky and like borderline fanatical about this? Like, do most RC people not care and they just like sick a new body, throw it on, and that's it, shoot it one color? Are we the weirdos that like want to get all elaborate and try, like I'm trying to figure out who's the majority, like who they're catering to. Is it people that
They're
really
catering to the-
or is it the
No, they're
RTR
catering.
crowd?
They're catering to the RTR, to the person that walks into the hobby shop that wants something different. They can just throw it on what they have and it works, and there's no extra steps involved. That's who they're catering to, which, like I said, is fine. But eventually, you're going to need to start offering it then, which I know is probably going to be costly, but you're going to start offering it in like 2 different versions because, I think one of the best things they ever did is when they came out with the Chevy, what was that? Was it a 60 something or a 56? The 56 Chevy, when they came out with that one, and you can get it as the cab only or the cab and the bed. I thought that was actually a brilliant idea because at the time, look how many people were doing truggies, and so you're like, okay, now you don't have to buy the full thing. You just buy the part you need, and boom, So it's like, I think they need to kind of like just maybe they need to start doing a little bit more. Like I've seen some other, companies in the one-to-one world, they kind of put out more like questionnaires and like, polls on their, socials, and they kind of like want like realistic feedback. And I think some of these companies in RC should probably start doing that. Like, kind of put out like, hey, we're thinking about this, what would you guys think about this? And then kind of like get your, idea or base your decision off of the feedback you're getting. I know somebody who does this a lot is actually John Holmes on the Holmes Hobbies team page. He'll fire something out like, I'm thinking about doing this for a motor, but this only gives me the option to do this and this, do you guys think it'd be more like, would you end up using it more this way or would you use it more this way? And then like, the comments, you start reading the comments, and you know, I'm sure there's some people that just like, you know, they go with the masses, and if the masses is saying this, they just like add on to it. But I mean, there are some people that actually give legitimate reasons to why they do it this way, or why they go that way, or why they prefer this over that. And then you start seeing the stuff that comes out, and you're kind of like, okay, he listened to like what everybody was saying and then did something about it. Whereas like some of these companies, I think it's still a, hey, we're going to come out with this, and I think everybody's going to like this. And the whole company's like patting each other on the back, and then they come out with it. And then the fan base is like, what the hell is this crap?
Yeah. Cue Proline Gladiator.
So, I mean, I'm sorry. The Proline Gladiator, that was my biggest, and I have no problem saying it. That was my biggest like letdown with Proline. Was I was like, I can't believe you guys released that. And I can't believe there's somebody in the marketing team that said, yep, this looks great. We're going to sell a ton of these. I
think, you know, as a whole, we are making progress, at least in the last year or so, with a greater variety of wheelbases. It seems to be like the community as a whole has started tinkering with it. I mean, myself included. I had to stretch the wheelbase for that dent side body, and I had never done that before.
Yeah. So, and I mean, like, but see, some people, like I said, your average person getting into this, and I think that's like what it still comes down to is a lot of these companies kind of like worry about their main quote unquote base and who they're going to, you know, get to buy this. And they're afraid that like, if somebody walks into the hobby shop and they're like, yeah, I drive a Toyota and I'd really like to get this. And they're like, oh yeah, we have this Toyota body by Proline, you know, and they're like, oh cool. Will that just work on my, you know, like they're like, oh, that would work on my SCX10 too, or oh, will that work on my TRX4? And they're like, well, you have to adjust this and you have to do this. You know that they're afraid that they're going to get that scenario, and they're going to be like, okay, never mind, I'm not going to get it. And I think that's why they make the decisions they make. They want the person to be like, oh yeah, and then just buy it.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Whatever's like most common and universal.
For lack of better words, yeah.
Yeah, because I mean, for the most part, like probably at least 75% of like the RC crawler community is running 12.3.
Yeah. It's just weird. Like you try and think of like, I don't know, everybody assumes they're the majority in RC, you know, and like I obviously was just kind of thinking the same thing, you know, because it's like, all right, you know, is it just the RTR crowd that drops them on, or like does a majority of people actually like build stuff and everything? And it's funny because with RC, everybody thinks they're in the majority. Like you'll always see guys going, oh man, these things need to come with a hard body. It sure would, you know, when's Axial gonna have a hard body rig, you know? And it's like all this stuff, it's never gonna happen, you know? And it's like, dude, nobody cares. Like that, it's just not how people normally are. Like they don't perform super great, they're way scaled, but I mean, also you're going to tack an extra $100 bill onto any kit that comes with one, you know? I mean, that's just how it is. And then you've got this latest craze of LCG fans that don't even necessarily comp, but are like, when is Element going to release a proper LCG chassis and blah blah. It's like, because you're like such a small percent that actually wants something like that. Like you guys don't get it. Like, you know, you may go, yeah, it's another Jeep, you know, that was just released. Well, yeah, but Jeeps are popular. You're probably one of the few that don't like them. I mean, it's so weird how, you know, I've never encountered that in any other kind of hobby or, you know, racing and, you know, like motorsports or anything like that. Like it's just whatever it is about the RC crowd is just like this really weird, like, you know,
well the
tailor it to what I like.
Well, the other thing to take into it too, and what I've noticed, especially just by like observing like a lot of like the quote unquote trends and what happens, and it's kind of like what you were saying with like these LCG chassis or these quote unquote comp chassis or performance based rigs, is the fact that it's like all these people want, like, it's almost like you want to make this rig that'll just climb up whatever, and you've taken every kind of enjoyment out of an obstacle out of it. You know, I'm not saying it's not nice to have like a rig that, you know, performs really well, but I guess this just comes from owning so many different styles of rigs that like I have my rigs that I'm like, okay, where are we going? Oh, we're going up to Axial Fest. We're going to be at Donner. This car will be great for that because it works really well on all kinds of terrains. Then if I pull out like another car, you're like, yeah, this one's really not a climber. It's really not something that goes over these like gnarly like rock faces. So I'm not going to bring it, or I will. I'm just not going to go on that trail. And I think like you start seeing these trends of people wanting something that's just going to kill everything. And then and like I said, I think it becomes a trend because like right now, and it's a shame because I do really like this body. You know, the cliffhanger body is almost replaced the craze of the Power Wagon body. Everybody, when the Power Wagon body came out, everybody got a Power Wagon body. Everybody was building something with tires way outside the wheel wells, super low to the ground, could climb over anything. And that was like the craze. Everybody was doing it. Then the cliffhanger body came out, and it's almost like they just plopped that onto the same style, and that's what they were going with, which, like I said, I really like the cliffhanger body. I think it looks really good because it's nice to see a pinched and dovetailed rig from the factory. Same with your Ford that they labeled tucked when really it's doved and pinched. That's another good looking, because like I said, you're not trying to do that yourself. Personally, I think if some of these body manufacturers wanted to make a killing, they would start offering some of their popular bodies in both those versions. And then that way, you have the option, because if you're going for performance wise, you want the body out of the way, because then that way you can have these ridiculously large tires turning a lot farther without contacting the body.
God, could you imagine how well a Proline SR5 that was like pinched and doved, like from factory, would sell?
Oh yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Stuff
I
like
know,
that.
I would buy one.
And that's exactly what I'm saying. So it's like there are some of these trends you need to watch and follow, and then go, okay, we can capitalize on this. But like you got to kind of also be somewhat, it's, I guess, like maybe these companies need to start like I said, back to the whole thing. Start with like some sort of questionnaire, kind of throw out some like teaser ideas and see what kind of reaction you get before you go through all this trouble making something, because unfortunately, doing this is not cheap.
Like the rock van, for example.
Yeah, like it's a cool idea, it's a cool concept, but it's a one thing, which actually almost brings me into like one of the other things we were talking about just before we started recording. The Sen F450. Now, if you think about it, the Sen F450 doesn't even fall into any of the basic categories that most people get into a hobby for. It's not a rock crawler, it's not a drag car, it's not a basher, it's not a on-road car, it's not a drifter. It's like, what is it? It's literally something created that if you want a truck that can pull a trailer or looks like it pulls a trailer, that's what it does. And it's crazy because it sells. So it's like, you're like, okay, this is something that's totally like doesn't fit any of the boxes, and it's selling.
There's somebody I follow on Instagram. I can't remember what his name is. Might be Crawlers and Customs or something along the lines of that. But he like makes these, it looks like chassis add-ons for those Sen 450s, and puts giant bogger tires on them, and they look beast mode as hell. But what do you do with it?
Yeah, it's Crawlers and Customs. He makes because I stumbled across this when I Googled it. He makes a lift for those things, and then he's actually copying the company Any Level Lift, because in the real world there's a company called Any Level Lift, and what they basically do is they have a lift that can actually have a range of motion that you can actually adjust on the fly, because typically the shocks are somewhat air driven. They're either airbags and or air aided shocks, so they can adjust the pressure, and that lifts or lowers the truck. And so he's doing that with the Sen F450, and it's kind of like you just said, it's like, what do you do with it? But it looks cool, and there's that person that goes, I want it just because it looks cool. And and that's always what's kind of blown my mind about the Sen F450 is it came out of like really nowhere, and people are eating it up.
I enjoy looking at them.
Yeah, I think it's cool. I mean, I would never own a truck like that necessarily. I mean, like, if I had a stupid amount of money, maybe I would build a big diesel if I had something to haul. But I mean, they look cool. Like, I can appreciate the work that's gone into them. And like, I think it's sick that they have a couple different colors now and all these wheel options. And I mean, like, they kind of, for the most part, own the market and aftermarket right now, with the exception of the guy that's making the lifts and stuff for them. I mean,
Right.
it's smart. Like, I mean, I would give anything to know what kind of units, like numbers, like what some of these manufacturers move each year on stuff like that. It's like, how many people actually own one of those? Like, how many do they produce in a year? Like, how many do you think they'll sell? Like, how do they forecast it? Like, I mean, because it's a huge commitment. I mean, I don't know if you remember the episode or not, Spencer, but we had talked at one point about injection molding and stuff like that, and like the price for like just a regular cage, like for a Wraith or something, in that league, as far as like size and amount of material, the mold for that's almost $100,000, so it's like,
oh my God,
dude, right? And so it's like, can you imagine? I for whatever reason, injection molding is super expensive. I mean, the mold has to be machined and everything. That's like the first.
Wait, what mold
step.
was $100,000?
The gatekeeper cage. I hope they're not listening to this. But yeah, it no one.
Travis was here. I thought you done hit your life alert button an hour ago.
Yeah.
No, but I mean, it's like, that's a huge commitment for mirrors and wipers and door handles and stuff for something that you don't know what kind of longevity it's going to have. Like, is, a year from now, 6 months from now, are those kind of trucks not going to be cool and everybody makes fun of them? Like, what, I mean, that's some big decisions with some pretty big money to have to make to like guess how much you're going to sell. And I mean, especially with that F450, I mean, that's brand new territory, like there's no like market data for something like that.
Well, I know I've touched base on it on previous episodes, but there's a guy, I think it's Weber's Gulch. I could be wrong.
The cat eye.
The cat eye, yeah.
Oh my God, that thing's cool. The cat eye flatbed.
And he actually, I don't know if he sells it or if he designed it or whatever, because if you actually look on Colts 3, the files are made for each other. So it's like they were designed around each other. So it's kind of crazy that like you can get that flatbed and throw it on there, but who's to say you can't throw that flatbed with that Ford, or who's to say somebody else can't come out with a Ford 3D printed body and throw that flatbed with it. And it's like, and there's people that are doing that, and they're getting that car and they're modifying it to something that they like. They're like, oh, because actually I think Chris Prestwood's doing that. I think he got one of those knowing that he was not going to run the Ford body, and he's putting a Dodge body on it because he's a Dodge guy. And it's like, that there's some of these manufacturers got to be saying, hey, we know other people are going to be putting their stuff on it. We don't care. We still got to get the main product out there.
Dude, you know what I want to do? I just had an idea. This is a little off topic, sorry. kind of, but not completely. So, it would be a sick build for like trails, or even probably mostly just like trails and stuff, but it'd be also a really cool scale garage piece. But one of those F450s, 3D print or build a snowmobile deck for the bed, and then 3D print 2 snowmobiles to set on top of the deck. That would be sick looking build, dude.
You're getting this idea off of Ty's snowmobile build.
Oh yeah, because he's been sending me pictures back and forth, and like I'm bummed out that the thing's 6 scale. Like it's huge, and I mean I'm like it's one of those things. It's like, man, I want to build one, but like number one, it's giant, and then number two, we get snow for a week every year, and that's it, you know. So it just doesn't really make sense. But the snowmobile truck would be a cool build. That
Somebody
would be
makes an RC.
make it all SEMA looking, you know, like.
Well, somebody makes I forget who. Somebody's 3D printed one of those racks so you can park your side by side up on top. I've seen that in the back of a couple people's cars.
That'd be sick. You know what somebody needs to do that's awesome with 3D printing, you know, as far as like 3D design and stuff, is make a different interior for the Can-Am, for the Yeti Can-Am that doesn't have driver figures, just has 2 seat backs sticking up and maybe a steering wheel.
Yeah.
Dude, that'd be so cool, because then you could actually like put the Yeti Jr. on stuff, because it's sized pretty closely. I mean, it's not giant compared to a 10 scale crawler, you know, like it's pretty darn close.
No, it's pretty scaled to what it is.
If you could come up with an interior for that thing, that would be sick as hell.
Yeah. No, I agree.
Then throw that up on the deck on the back of one of those, or 2 of them, you know, have the front tires up on like the headache rack or something.
Mm-hmm. And there's a couple
and have
people
the other
that
one on the back.
There's a couple people that have taken the SCX 24s and they've turned them into working quads.
Yeah, who's that guy that has Captain
Ziggs.
America riding around on it? Dude, that is so sick looking. He did such a good job. And it doesn't suck. Like he's jumping it and stuff. Like I thought it, you know, the figure'd make it like top heavy and flop over all the time, but like, dude, he mobs that thing and gets some great video with it.
That makes me think of that. I think it's an X-Max that somebody put like some sort of an ATV body on and put like a children's doll on it, duct taped its hands to the handlebars and everything. And every time I come across those videos, I'm like, man, that little kid is hauling. And then it like does like 8 backflips over a jump and crashes. And I'm like, wait a minute.
Just the gnarliest whiplash you've ever seen a human being endure.
Yeah, it's like rolling on its skull every time.
That I've ever seen that video for the first time. I was like, wait a minute. So funny. God, I forgot about that. I love that one. So rad. Well,
yes,
we should probably get Jam in here. It's been a long one.
It's been a good one.
Yeah, absolutely. This
sure.
has been super fun. I'm glad we finally got to do this, man. Thank you for making time for us.
Absolutely. No, thank you guys. This has been really fun. I've wanted to come on for a while. I've listened to like 5,000 hours of episodes. I feel like I know you guys all on a personal level, and now I guess you got to know me a little bit.
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
no,
That's cool.
it's awesome. So
The podcast is good for that, because people get a sense of like who all of us are. Because it's like, you know, you can type something on Facebook and mean one thing and everybody reads it something, you know, completely differently. And so it's just like, I think the podcast is kind of the most accurate way to like get to know any of us, really, because this is just how we are in everyday life, you know,
Yeah.
versus like whatever people's assumptions are on social media.
which is kind of like what I said earlier. I said we're just average people. Like the fact that you put us on like this quote unquote celebrity level, it's like we're far from it. If we're celebrities, man, we're doing a bad job.
Well, I mean,
with our 30,000 downloads,
within our section of the hobby, I mean, there's, I don't know, you guys are like definitely influencers, that's for sure. I mean,
just never think of ourselves that way.
Well, I mean, you guys have been at it for a long time. I mean, you're just around the corner from 100 episodes. I mean, that's a pretty big accomplishment to stick around for it that long, So
That is
kudos.
crazy. Thanks,
Yeah, we
man.
did say
Appreciate
that
it.
at the beginning. We did say at the beginning. We never knew how long this was going to go, and we didn't know how long we'd be able to take it. And it is kind of crazy when you go, holy crap, we're already at 100 episodes. We're at 98 on this one, but it's like we're 2 away from, 100 episodes. That's a lot of crap to talk about that people are listening to.
And really,
Yeah.
I mean, it's like we were so worried about running out of things to talk about when we first started this. It's like, how can you have a podcast about skill crawlers? Like, it's so boring compared to watching a video that, who's going to even pay attention to this? So it's just, the whole thing's been a real trip. Like, it's pretty crazy. And like all of our patrons and stuff, I mean, that blows my mind. I mean, I can't remember if I told everybody, but the money that we got from Patreon, we did, the water bottles that we're trying to send out still. I got the boxes from Travis, and so now I can get the rest of those mailed out. So I'm sorry to everybody that still hasn't received theirs, working on it. But not just that, but like we had saved up for a couple months and we bought a Ecto for Operation 11 Charlie, and I'm getting ready to paint the body on that and stuff and get it going. So thanks to, all of you guys that listen to us all the time. I mean, we bought a car for a veteran, and yeah, it's that's where your money went. So we're trying to do some more things. We have some more ideas here shortly. We were thinking about throwing together like the ultimate backpack, like have it just stocked already with everything you could think of. Like, I mean, like even down to like a roll of TP. Trav and I were talking about this the other day, and then do a drawing just for patrons for, this bag that's like stocked with like hardware and toilet paper and a hydration pack and like just everything that you could need, like a cell phone charging battery, for charging your equipment and stuff, and have that in the backpack, and just, just totally deck it out and then do a drawing and give it away. So, I mean, like we have a lot of plans and stuff, and like building stuff takes a long time, and like the water bottles are labor intensive because we don't have someone else do it. Like I wrap them all by hand. So, but we're trying to do more cool stuff, and hopefully everybody sticks around for it. So we're trying. Just get busy.
Awesome.
Well,
Cool.
we call it, boys.
Sure.
Call it.
All right. Well, thanks again, everybody. Appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.